For joining us tonight. I'm Jo Phillips. I'm known as JoOutLoud online, and tonight we have Deanna Harder with us. Interestingly, I met Deanna on Twitter, but she actually knows my partner Jo from like way back in the day. So kind of, it's so cool how we always intersect in some way. It's such a small world. So thank you for joining me, Deanna.
You're very welcome. And yes, when I connected with Joe on Twitter, right away he got in contact with you. And what a great idea that was, because your contacts and my contacts, we're all following each other, and I found a really cool family over on Twitter.
Yeah, a lot of people complain about Twitter, but like I've found so much positive from there. So many great relationships. Some of my closest friends.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and that's actually where Jo and I met as well. So yeah, weird, right?
It
Yeah,
is. Well, maybe if I keep tweeting, I'll meet my soulmate.
that's what you never know. I would use Twitter. I'm just saying it works. Works, man. We'll establish a dating strategy for you by the time we're done this.
Okay.
In fact, if you're watching and have some comments, then you can help us develop a dating strategy for
Yeah,
Deanna while we're talking.
because Bumble is not working for me. And just can I just kind of pause here to talk about this situation? So last week I
Sure.
was on the Facebook dating app, and I was talking to a guy named Michael for about 4 days. Turns out Michael wasn't really Michael. He stolen a firefighter's picture and pretended he was this guy. And I found out through a couple of my friends who are firefighters are like, no, that's actually so and so, and he's married, and he stole his picture. So ladies, be
Oh,
careful on those apps, because some people are just being jerks.
oh,
And like, I'm really looking for love here. So you
that
are like,
sucks.
yeah.
That
So
sucks.
anyways,
I I had a dream last night that I was dating Ryan Reynolds, and the main reason, yeah, I know, right? It was a good dream. The main reason that he liked dating me was because I didn't talk about the fact we were dating. That was my selling feature.
wow, like you're like,
Yeah, and I told my daughters that this morning. I said, "Hey, I had dreamt that I was dating Ryan Reynolds," and my daughter said, "It must really have sucked to woken up this morning."
like shake that off, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love dreams like that. Like they're so vivid, and you just remember the details, and then it's like, how can we, write that down and make more content out of dreams, because there's you can't make that up. Like,
Right? And you, even when you write it down, that you still can't hold on to, like you can't hold on to the parts of it that you actually wanted to hang on to. And like, yeah, I that's a whole other conversation.
I know.
Like how to take the vividness and the feelings of dreams and actually get them into a journal format. That'd be
Feel
awesome.
it feels so real that I feel brokenhearted sometimes in the morning.
Yes.
Like, I feel like melancholy from my dream.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you're just gonna have a bad day because you had a bad
It's
right?
real. And you can be so upset with somebody that did something to you in your dream, and it's not real. So
Right.
yeah, we should
Yeah.
have a dream analysis on here.
We'll do that in January.
It's
It'll
like,
be our launch. We'll do like a how to
yeah,
how to get through 2021 after the shit show of
I
2020.
know. And I gotta quit. I know I have this leak in my bathroom. I'm like, damn it, 2020. But I'm like, no, this has happened before. Like, this isn't 2020's fault.
Oh, this isn't a
Right
2020
away, you're
issue.
like, you know. But yeah, so interesting. Wow, what a great dream. But yeah, so dating, yes, we can talk about that too. I'm sure there's a few people
Oh,
my age category, single, no kids, never been married. There's
yeah.
got to be more. I mean, I know there is.
That
Like other women.
like half of my book club are single women over 40 who have never been married and don't have kids.
Okay, well, we got to get this group going.
Yeah, yeah.
What?
Tracy says she met her husband at Rotary, so maybe try.
Oh, really? Tracy?
Yeah,
Oh God.
yeah, right? Have you tried Rotary?
Wow. Well, I will. Hold on, I gotta get my paper out.
Well, now we're gonna.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks,
I'm
Tracy.
going to hit the random age generator
Okay,
and
we are going there. This is so cool.
oh,
Ooh, 19. Oh my goodness.
19. We're
19.
talking about Deanna at
Oh
19.
my goodness. This is exciting.
Oh,
I love 19.
that's awesome. That's
I was
great.
I was in my second year of social work, because I took
Okay.
social work because I wanted to be a police officer. And so I had already had established I was going to be an RCMP, and I wrote the exam, and I passed the exam, but I failed the eye exam. So I had to decide, okay, I'm going to do social work, and then I'm going to get laser surgery later
Okay.
on. And so I was working towards that goal. So 19, I was just moving out of Dawson Creek to move to Grand Prairie to move into personal training, the 2-year diploma program at GPRC.
Wow.
So yeah, I was on the cuff there of like the last year in Dawson Creek.
So you were in social work when you went to take your personal training.
Yeah, so I finished my social work diploma. I did
Okay.
practicum. And, I love helping people. I love the people. The working with people was my thing. But I'd always taught aerobics. I took aerobics classes, and I went into teaching aerobics at age 16. But you
Okay.
had to be 18 to be certified in BC. So I had to wait till I was 18 to do my certification. So I taught for free for 2 years. When I was
Oh,
16, the Good Morning Step Aerobics class, the 6:30 a.m. or the 6 a.m. class that my mom had to drive me to because I didn't have a car back when I was 16 right away.
yeah.
So
How
yeah,
cool is that?
it is.
Okay, so then you had just moved to GP in when you were 19?
I finished my diploma at 19, and then that was the cuff of like, I don't think I want to be a social worker. I applied for the personal training program, which is a 2-year diploma at GPRC,
Mm-hmm.
and I got in. And so I was 20 when I went into the program, and
Gotcha.
when I was like, ooh, I don't know if I want to be a social worker. My life was very, very like to the point where I was working in a transition house, and I
Mm-hmm.
would see abused women, really abused children, fetal alcohol syndrome, and I was like, I can't have empathy because empathy
Mm-hmm.
is like somewhere where you've been in their shoes, and I'm not gonna lie,
Yeah.
my parents loved the shit out of me, like they were awesome and loving, and I mean, like I didn't know that my schooling wouldn't transfer into real life.
Whoa, isn't that true, right?
I didn't.
I took a psych degree, and in my second year, the social work department actually came in to one of my psych classes because they were recruiting for the social work program.
Hey,
And they told us about it. And then the last thing they said was, "We don't want you to apply unless you know for sure you can drive away from a kid with no shoes on."
wow.
Like, yeah, like they told us that like it's going to be one of the hardest jobs. You're going to burn out, and they're going to be really hard things to do. And so we don't even want you in the program if you don't know right now that you have the ability to do these hard things. And I was like, I'm out. Like, there's no way.
I mean, I worked
So
4 months and I was out. There was
yeah,
one night where this mother and her 3 kids came to the transition house with the police. She had nothing but the clothes on her back. They escaped her abusive husband, and I was just like, she's like, but he loves me. I'm like, are you crazy? He doesn't love you. And I was like, how could she go back to him? And I just
yeah.
couldn't do it. I'm like, no matter what you did, it just felt like a job that's just I could never get it out of my head. So I would go
Hmm.
home with these crazy thoughts, and it wasn't for me. So
Yeah.
I wish I would have known, but it's never ever a waste because
No.
I learned a lot about what I didn't want. I also learned about like my sheltered life, like, my protected sheltered life. And I'm very lucky to be
Hmm.
raised in such a loving family, but there's some definite, the real world hits you pretty hard when you have
Yeah.
been
And when
sheltered.
you're making those decisions at 17,
Yeah.
what you want to, right? Like you have no real concept of what the actual world is like because your world is what you know.
That's all you
Like,
know. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So you
Yeah.
jumped into personal training. Where were you living when you were 19? Like what did you have an apartment? Were you living in res? What were you
So I was
doing?
living in my brother's house in the basement going to college in Dawson Creek. And then I think I was dating a hockey player. So I was big on that. Like I felt like he was the love of my life. And of course, when you're 19, everything is blown up to these preposterous proportions. Like, of course
Yeah.
I'm like, of course, you think there's nobody else out there for you, and he's the only one. And then I moved to Grand Prairie, and we broke up within a year. Just then you realize there's other people out there, and you move on. But yeah, I was living in my brother's house, and he had 2 of his buddies, and then he was like, "Oh, great, my little sister's moving in." But that was the first place I moved out. Like I moved into my brother's basement, and I was still in social work at the
Hmm.
Northern Lights College in Dawson Creek. And then, yeah, I was working for my dad. He had me flagging for Peace Country Maintenance, a maintenance business where
Hmm.
they'd rip up the roads, and I would go out and flag for patching crew and the gravel haul. And I mean, at those are 12, 15-hour days.
Mm-hmm.
You pee in a 5-gallon pail.
Because
Yeah.
it's not really set up for women like back then, right?
Oh, and you have a
Yeah.
walkie-talkie, and you have your lunch pail and your 5-gallon pail in the bush, and you got your sign.
Yeah.
Out there dancing and be like, "Hey, hi." Yeah, but it
But
was good.
in the mid 90s, that was the job that like so many young women wanted because it was one of the better paying jobs.
Big
Like
time.
because yeah, right? Like it was difficult to get into a physical labor job.
Yeah.
And but to get the wages that came with physical labor, then a flag person was like that was the gig. You had a great tan, I bet.
Oh yeah, and like sure, and you were making what 1950 an hour or something, then you get overtime and double time. And I didn't realize the discipline that taught me. Not only was my dad the boss, so I couldn't be late. I mean, we were
Mm,
working 7 a.m. till 5:30. Sometimes we do 12-hour days overtime, but to let my dad down, there's no way. And so
yeah.
I was really like, it taught me resilience. It taught me discipline to do shitty work. And then I'm like, I'm going to college and I'm going to do something professional. But I mean, some days they'd say, Deanna, do you want to run the shovel? And I'm like, yes, I do. Let me shovel. Like I wanted any labor job because I was just such a fitness buff. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So,
But because using your body to work, like hands down for me, the years I had my gym and the years I was a personal trainer, like hands down, the best years of my work life ever.
so
You just, yeah, it's so fulfilling and you feel so good while you're doing it.
mhm.
And like just to be able to move, to be like have your whole day include movement,
Yeah.
jumping over things and running and like just, yeah,
Yeah, I always would leave work feeling so good about myself. And
yeah.
then we would look at the highway we just patched, or we just filled all the concrete in, or the road that was laid down in the grader, and
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, wow, we made this.
Yeah, we did that.
Yeah.
We
Or then
did
there's
that.
days you pick up a dead deer too.
Oh,
Can you go pick up
but
a dead deer? And the flaggers would do those odd jobs. Like if it was raining, we'd paint fence posts. We would pick up dead deer on the road. We would do all the road maintenance stuff, pick up garbage.
yeah.
Like there are a lot of kids that would put their nose up at that now, but we did all
Oh,
that
yeah.
stuff, and it taught hard work and getting dirty, and but also just good times, lots of laughs. Like those foremans I had were some of the coolest guys. Like
Hmm.
I can honestly say, like I feel really lucky because number one, I know a lot of women aren't as lucky. They would have had sexual harassment or some kind of like snide comments, but I am a big mouth and I will give it right back to you. And I think I just ran with it.
Yep.
Being
You set
outgoing.
up an expectation of respect and it's met, right? Like that's something I've definitely learned as I've gotten older is like when you set up that expectation, then you're not going to run into all of the problems. When you don't set up an expectation of respect, then
Mm-hmm.
you're definitely going to, and it's not right, but it is true. So,
It's the way we get through the world, like the teasing and the banter and the jokes. It's like, oh, you think those jokes are funny? You're not.
mhm,
And I would just roll with it. I would give it right back, and it was just.
yeah.
And yeah, like I think that's kind of like that thick skin you got to grow, and then that actually helped me to try out for the later on to the EPS when I
Mm,
moved to Edmonton eventually, because you think you're going to be a police officer and not get yelled at and not be that kind of thing. So that really helped me through my process later on in life. I think that those hard 3 years that I worked as a flagger in the
mhm,
labor world, that really, I mean, hands down gave me tools for later in life for resilience and to
yep.
be able to talk to people.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, to all sorts of people.
All sorts of people.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
people that were in vehicles that were mad that were they have to wait. I would just bring the temperature down and be like, hey man, we gotta wait. All of us have to wait. And do you think I like to
Yeah.
out here and minus or plus 30 and I'm sweating and
Yeah.
you
Want to
know,
use my 5-gallon bucket?
yeah. We didn't even have cell phones then. We have like Walkman.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And we'd have magazines to read. Like it was just a different time, right? So
Yeah.
that would be 1998. 90,
Gotcha.
95, I was 17. So 97, I was 19.
Okay.
1997, so I don't even know if we had cell phones. I don't remember. No, in
I,
90.
I don't think so. Yeah, maybe a pager. If you were really
Yeah. Yeah, that's about
Yeah,
it. You know,
definitely not the cell phones we have today,
I
not
would have
even
a real
close.
camera with me.
Yeah.
Real camera that you'd have to go to Costco and get developed.
Yeah, and remember at that time, like we were so excited because the instant cameras were a fairly new thing, like where you could just buy the camera and just
Yep,
send the camera for development. Like
that was
that
it.
was the big thing.
That would be on tables at weddings.
Yeah, right?
Just collect all the cameras at the end of the night and see all the pictures that your friends took.
Yeah.
Yeah, different time for sure, for sure.
Different time. So you were going to school to take your personal training. Did you still have the goal of being a cop at that point?
It was in the back of my mind, but because I got deferred from the RCMP for having poor eyesight, I thought, well, then at that time, like eye surgery was between $5,000 and $10,000.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, no, I'm just gonna wear contacts and I'm gonna. And then I heard about this personal training program, and I know my mentor is watching, Laura Hancherek. So she is the head of the department for the personal training diploma program, and I met with her in her office, and I was like, I want to be a personal trainer. This is what I'm doing right now. I'm already teaching aerobics. I'm heading to Edmonton right now to do a weekend certification. She was just like, you're going to be a good one. And I didn't know that this was a job opportunity. I thought that you had to be a phys ed instructor,
Mm.
but this was it. Like there was Mount Royal College doing the personal training program, and then Grand Prairie. Eventually, then the NATE program started here in Edmonton.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it was a phys ed degree.
Right.
And so, yeah, I thought, I'll put that on the back shelf. Maybe later I could reapply to the RCMP once I got my eyes lasered.
Mm-hmm.
But I went headfirst into that personal training diploma program, and I was at the front of my class. Everything just soaked in. It was like effortless for me to go to. I loved it. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, this is what I need to do, and I've never looked back. I absolutely love my job. I love it. I'm so lucky.
And so you're about 20 years in now then.
Yeah, 22.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How unusual is that?
it is crazy.
Yeah.
And not only am I still able to love what I do, I'm also contributing back to Laura, her program, because I'm helping mentor some of her students.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be doing some case studies this year with some of her students who are, bright-eyed and they're new to the industry, and it's so fun to be able to contribute back. We actually had our 20-year reunion last year for the first actual graduating class of the diploma program.
Wow. Isn't
Yeah,
that weird? Like 20-year reunions are only for old people.
I know. It was so young, but it's so
It's so weird.
it is weird because I used to think when I was 42 that it was old. Like I remember when my mom turned 40 and I would have been 19 or 18. I think she was 22 when she had me.
Mm.
And then it was like over the hill, and you would get a card that said over the hill on it with the grandma. And I mean, when I turned 40, I was like, photo shoot, New York City,
Right?
single, no kids. Yeah.
Like 40 has been awesome. Like being in my 40s, I freaking love it.
I do too.
Laura says you rocked it and you were a natural. So
Oh,
yeah.
Laura, thank you for watching. Yeah, she's like, how does this work? How do I click on it? You know me, I'm not good at social media. I'm like, just click on the link.
Yeah.
It's fine. Oh, I'm so glad.
Fingers crossed it works.
Yeah, I know.
If it doesn't work, then it's on YouTube later.
Yeah, you can watch it later. And the thing about Laura is it's come full circle because now she's hired me to work with her do FaceTime sessions. So the trainer mentor, protege mentor is kind of flipped.
Oh, that's
But
cool.
I work hard for her. She makes me work to
Yeah.
be a good trainer. It makes me level up, right?
That's
When you work with people that are like, she's got a master's degree. It's like I'm nervous, right? But
yeah.
it makes you work harder to be amongst greatness.
Yeah, and I feel like COVID has made all of us level up in a big way. It's just in a whole bunch of different ways. And so that's so cool to be like to have that flip around.
Yeah.
Very
And at first I was like, I'm so honored you would ask me to be your trainer.
hmm
It just blows my mind. But I remember that I'll remember the day she asked me. It was just after shutdown, and I was just like, what am I gonna do? No one's gonna want to work with me online.
Yeah.
And this little angel came down and was like, do you want to be my coach? So, but yeah.
I can't wait to get to that part because I'm really interested in how you've pivoted in that. So, at 19, how did you imagine yourself? Like when you pictured yourself walking down the street, or you pictured yourself moving in the world at 19, at that time, what was that picture like in your head?
I feel like I I always had these big dreams of being in front of crowds and speaking, and I'm very loud and I don't hold back on my opinion, and that's a filter issue that I've had a lot of trouble with, but it's also got me to where I am. Not
Mm-hmm.
being shy and not, and honestly, the thing about me is I'm going to tell you exactly what I feel the moment I feel it. And whether or not you can handle that is whether or not you're my friend or not.
Mm.
I think when I was 19, I was confident. I was still working with my eating disorder, which is another story, but I
Mm-hmm.
had sort of tamed it a little bit. It fired up again when I actually started competing in bodybuilding, which is again down into my 20s.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was a fitness fanatic, super, super addicted to the rush of training. I didn't drink. I've never done drugs at that point. Actually, the first time I ever smoked weed was when I was 40 with my friend Wade. Yeah,
Which is so different than our parents at 40, right?
right. And I
Yeah.
wasn't like um, I didn't understand how food worked at that point. So I basically ate whatever I wanted. And I used a lot of exercise to control my weight. I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
rampantly throwing up as much. There was periods of bulimia, but at 19, I was like, okay, I'm gonna be a cop now. I have to get my shit together,
Mm.
and I can't. That's not a good look when you can't have an eating disorder and try to be a police officer. Like, and then
Yeah.
again, I went into but the thing is, it was still very, very, very controlling. I actually chose personal training because I could hide out in it because I could work out all the time.
Right. Just a different kind of
Yeah, a different kind
dealing with it.
of purging with the exercise compulsion.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Laura, if she's watching still, she recognized that. And I said, I'm worried about you. You are working out a lot. Like, I would do the workouts in class. I would be at the gym before class. I would do cardio after class. I was teaching at lunchtime for the college. I was teaching classes every day at noon.
Mm-hmm.
So I was working out like 3 or 4 to 5 hours a day.
And definitely not fueling that.
No. And then
Yeah.
teaching spin. I taught at the club at Ranchlands. I taught spin there. That's where I was living. That was in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just like, it already had a firm grip over me. And I was able
Mm-hmm.
to hide out in the personal training program because all we did was work out and everybody thought that was normal.
So you kind of so when did your eating disorder start?
When I was 16,
Okay.
15, 16. Yeah. And I was already teaching aerobics then. And if I was going to be in front of people, I better look good, right? And that's when those
Mm.
little tops were in and like the tighter outfits.
Yeah.
And, and I had a chubby face, and I'd always been called Chubby Cheeks and Cabbage Patch Kid, and I was like, you know what? Like, I'm fat. I got to do something
Mm-hmm.
about this. So, and I basically had my diet down to bran muffins, apples, carrots, and I mean, I didn't eat protein ever, but I would drink like diet soda all the time, and then so
Yeah.
I had these health books, and I would that was before apps, and I'm like, okay, an apple has 60 calories. Okay, I'm gonna give myself 500 a day,
Mm-hmm.
and then I just burned it off too. I don't know how my poor body got through that.
Yeah.
I don't know how I did.
It's really amazing. I think that and I'm sure like anyone watching this, I would say that a lot of us went through, if not eating disorder, disordered eating.
Mm-hmm.
And so many challenges, and I do believe it's because what was put in front of us
Yeah.
by by our parents, by our moms, by the diet culture for sure,
Mm-hmm.
but also those little things. I mean, my grandma would say to me, like my sister, there was me and my sister, and then my brothers. My brothers never, nobody ever commented on them.
No.
But it was always a competition of like which one was thinner. My sister's 5'11", I'm 5'8". And
Well,
so, yeah, so like we're not destined to be these tiny people. But whoever was thinner got the better attention, and whoever wasn't at the time was, are you sure you really want that piece of pie at
yeah.
Thanksgiving?
Mm-hmm.
And so those little things just really, like your Cabbage Patch cheeks,
Yeah,
right?
the dimples. Yeah, the
It's amazing what we do with that information when we're teenagers.
yeah. I thought that that was ugly. I'm like, oh, I hate
Yeah.
dimples. I hate them, and now I love my dimples. It's
Yeah.
like you don't know.
Yeah.
I remember I had this teacher tell me. She said, "You're gonna love your dimples when you're older," and I was like, "Yeah, right, right." But now it's like
Yeah.
that's my signature thing. Like that's something that I'm very lucky. Like it's fun to have dimples, and I always thought that they were fat. That meant I was.
Yeah.
It's like I had too much fat in my face, so that it dimpled in.
Oh,
No,
like
there's
face cellulite.
yeah. I was like face cellulite, fate. My face is so fat that it dimples, right? And so you just
Yeah.
dramatic things that, and then the stories you tell yourself, and you hear it repeatedly. You can't get it out of your loop, and then it becomes like this obsession with like what you look like, and of course, entering the fitness career. That's a
Hmm.
really good place to hide out if you want to, look shredded, but also hide out in there by, oh, I have to work out all the time because that's what I do for a living.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And
And also like it's virtually impossible to eat enough when you're working out that much. Like there's actually not even enough time to eat and digest the number of calories you require in order to fuel that much effort.
yeah,
Right? So it just makes it so much easier, like you said, to hide out.
mm-hmm. And there was
So
no sports nutritionists that were, helping students at that time.
no,
Um,
not at all.
I hid my disorder with my life. Like I remember my parents called me out. I remember they heard me throwing up in the bathroom, and I'm like, "No, I'm washing my face." And like, Deanna, we know what you're doing. I would
Hmm.
protect it with my life, and I was
Yeah.
such a jerk. I was just like mad because they knew, and I was so embarrassed, and
Hmm.
the shame that comes with it. So I know I've had clients that have asked me about their daughters, and it just breaks my heart. I'm like, oh yeah, she has an eating disorder. It's classic. What do we do? What do we do? Well, now there's tons of help and stuff like that,
Hmm.
but I don't know. My parents didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
They didn't
Yeah.
know. They thought, but they must have thought I'd just grow out of it, or I would snap out of it, or hopefully,
Yeah.
So
And then and so when you shifted to hiding the disorder with exercise, so yeah, they'd see you eating, you're not throwing up anymore, but you're hiding it with exercise. My guess is you were getting a pat on the back for that.
yeah, I got lots of acknowledgments. You're so fit, like, and then I was in sports and field hockey and volleyball and track team, and then in college I was teaching up to 7 to 9 aerobics classes a week, spin boot camps, and I would train myself at lunchtime, and then I got a job at the phys ed department doing at the gym where you just sign
Hmm.
people in, so I could be after dark. And there was another girl that would do that with me. We would hang out after we closed the gym and we would do cardio.
Mm.
And we would read Oxygen magazine. And we were crazy.
Yeah. And like you wanted to be in that section in Oxygen
Like,
magazine. What was it called? Like the Stars of Tomorrow or
yeah,
something like
you
that?
know what
Yeah.
I mean. And they would
Yeah, I
say
totally do.
they would write.
I totally do.
They
I
would.
think it was definitely like a culture that was
Yeah,
yeah, for sure.
yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking
And that
about.
was why I'm so vocal about diet culture and moderation. And that's the only. I don't give out diets. I even hate the word. I'm so
Hmm.
vehemently aggressive. I have to draw a line in the sand. This is what I'm for and this is what I'm against. And it's only been the last 7 years that I'm able to do that because I'm on the other
Hmm.
side of it, of healing and seeing the it's very dark, Joe, like very
Hmm.
dark, my disorder and what I did to my body to be that ripped and lean for fucking 10 years. I sorry if I swear, for like a 10
Hmm.
year span. Like the fat burners and the fasted cardio and the caffeine and like just the purging, and it's dark, man. And so
Yeah.
if anybody wants to know a real good reason why you want to talk to your kids about disordered eating, I will be very open with that, because if I can save one person, that's
Hmm.
that's all I want to do. It breaks my heart to even think about Deanna in her 20s. I lost out on my whole 20s and almost all my 30s.
Because that's all you thought about.
I was consumed by it.
Yeah.
I don't even know how I made my one relationship for 2 or 3 years with my ex-boyfriend last. I don't even know. Like I went into remission for periods of time,
Yeah.
got obsessed with other things. So I didn't have time for my disorder anymore. But as soon as we broke up, the eating disorder was there for me and waiting,
Mm,
just waiting. And it's like,
yeah,
and then it filled the gap. It filled my loneliness. And then,
yeah.
yeah, so I made sure I had access to a lot of gyms so that the gyms wouldn't see me twice a day. I would go to different gyms.
Oh, wow, right? Like just this whole plan.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? And this might be why, like, it makes it really important to talk about right now. You, had you not made it to recovery, what would COVID have done to
Oh my
you?
God, I would have been crazy. I would have been running every day outside. I would have I would have done anything to get into one of the gyms that maybe were underground or I did have access to custom fit, but with COVID I didn't feel comfortable going there, but
Mhm.
former Deanna wouldn't have given a shit. Like I would have went there anyway and risked COVID.
Mhm.
It wouldn't have been an option. It would have been it consumed me so bad. I would be trembling and shaking. Even on holidays, I had to find somewhere with a gym. It was like I didn't know that it could be so easy and that you don't get results from all that cardio. In fact, all that cardio made me do was starve and eat more and then I had to purge later.
Right.
There's this vicious cycle. I would have probably had a nervous breakdown
Yeah.
if I was 30 years old and COVID happened.
Yeah.
And so I know that there's women right now or men that are gym psycho about their gym routine that have done
Hmm.
that were going nuts. And
Yeah. And burying it in self-harm or alcohol abuse or drug abuse in another way to like handle it, right?
yeah, and that's why you saw those crazy 1,000 push-up a day, 1,000 burpee a day, ridiculous workouts that are causing injury because
Yeah.
they don't realize that's not how it works. That's
Yeah.
how recovery and fitness works at all. But it's
Yeah.
just that desperation to move. You know what? We need more struggle in our life if the only thing we can do is go to the gym. You know what I mean? Like
No,
when
oh yeah.
you're in service of others, you're not
Hmm.
so obsessed with your own body.
Oh,
When you're helping and
wow.
things for other people and you're in service and you have a business to I didn't know that my business could have been so much more successful if I wasn't so obsessed with this keeping and having abs. It's
Right.
so narcissistic.
Yeah.
I barely made it through and I would cancel every opportunity, every event just to go I could work out. I mean,
Yeah.
this morning, -30. Oh, don't worry, I'm up at 5 a.m. to go for a run before everybody gets up. Like,
Yeah.
I would never ever let anything come between my workout, including boyfriends.
And just years lost, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's an interesting um I think this is an interesting question for you then because when you were 19, when I asked how you imagined yourself, you said I was confident, I was, all of these things. But you also had an eating disorder
Hmm.
that you were hiding
Yeah.
in a different way. Did you love yourself at 19?
No, but I faked it.
Mm,
Nobody. I laughed a lot. I know. I always had friends. I was always very social. I loved my family, but I did have this secret, and nobody knew. And yeah. So I would have. I'll say this: I was externally very confident, but internally I was not. I was
mm,
dying inside. But if you say how I walked down the street, I owned it, but
mm-hmm.
I don't know how to explain it because you're right. I wasn't living the life of a confident person. It was a front. It was like wearing a mask.
Oh,
Yeah. Perfect like segue into masking. You know what? Wearing that on the outside so that I would never have to let my secret go because my secret kept me thin.
yeah.
So how could I ever let anybody in on that? Because then I'd have to heal from it. Then what would I do with all my time?
And all your value was in being thin.
Yeah,
Like your abs were your value.
yeah. And the sacrifices I made to get the abs, and then the extreme stress of keeping them, of
Mm-hmm.
down to the calorie, the 12 almonds, not 13.
Mm-hmm.
4 ounces of chicken, not five, like exactly measured, weighed portions. And if, like, I remember one time I slammed on my brakes and my protein pancake that I measured out with cottage cheese and egg whites and protein powder, it flew on the floor with the mud and the sludge from my feet. And I just dusted it off and ate it because I'm like, well, I don't have any other choice. I can't just go to Safeway
Right.
and buy unmeasured chicken.
Yeah.
What? Whoa.
That's just craziness.
Not, not go off my 6 foods. I
Yeah.
eat my bodybuilding foods because if I didn't, then I would gain weight that night. I mean, that's how it works, doesn't it? Like, no, like if I, and I have exercise science, I know this stuff.
Yeah.
But it was so, and so I remember going to eating disorder counseling and they have you write a breakup letter to your eating disorder. Of course, they call them Ed.
Oh, right.
Fuck you. And I just like wrote this letter of like, you stole my life. Like, I don't even know. It was like gradually, then suddenly I would protect that eating disorder with everything, including
Yeah.
I remember missing on, weddings and dances, and I would cancel dates. Like, I don't know. Yeah, it was terrible. But yeah,
Yeah.
that
It's an abusive relationship, but it's one like it's actually an abusive relationship with yourself, right? Like
a
it's your
mental illness.
brain. Yeah, like it's not who you are, but it's this piece of who you are that you so how do you easily detach? You can't. It's always with you until you do all of the work that it takes
It was
in
like,
order to
yeah. And it was like, I remember the first day I didn't do fasted cardio and I didn't purge. I was like, shaking and I had like withdrawal and I'm like, okay, I'm not allowed to do fasted cardio, but I just have to eat this meal and let it sit there. And I'm not going to get fat. And then like 2 weeks later, I was like, I didn't blow up. Like I didn't gain 50 pounds.
yeah.
And then it was a month and I hadn't purged. And then it was like a year and I never threw up for a whole year. And I
Hmm.
didn't gain 50 pounds.
Yeah.
I gained a little bit of weight.
Yeah.
Nothing like I thought it was. My body was like, thank you for the food. And
Yeah.
thank you for resting. I mean, my knee injury went away. My
Hmm.
sciatica went away. I focused on weight training. And in fact, the last time I was on cardio equipment for more than 20 minutes probably was about 2016.
Oh, wow.
I had to wean off the 2 a day,
Yeah.
so 1 a day to 30 minutes to maybe 10 minutes a week. I might do the odd bike sprints once a week,
Hmm.
but now I just lift 4 days a week. And, but I never knew it could be this easy. And I stayed between 10 pounds of that state,
Yeah.
you know, where at first it came on and then slowly now I don't weigh and measure anything. I eat foods I like, I eat moderation, but at the time to wean off that and to have a counselor like say, just try it. If you hate it, then the next day, you can go back to your cardio, but you're going to feel so much better. And then
Hmm.
the thing was, I wanted it more than I didn't. I wanted to heal more than I didn't.
Yeah.
I was so sick of feeling like shit that I guess the pain of staying the same was worse than the pain of change.
Hmm.
And I mean, it took it till I was 37 years old.
Oh, and I mean that could be also for people who are struggling with obesity. Like that pain, you have to get to that point, right? Just of to do the work has to be
Yeah. I just couldn't get out of
worth it.
bed. My legs were aching. My body was broken.
Hmm.
I was breaking out in psoriasis all over my body. My hair wasn't very nice. Ended up getting braces on my teeth. I had an overbite, but I thought if I got braces, then I wouldn't throw up anymore
Yeah.
because they're ache,
Oh,
and I'm too proud.
yeah.
And I told my dentist, she's like, "Oh, I can't even tell that you have an eating disorder." I'm like, I almost felt like, "Oh, I could get away with it." And I'm
Yeah,
like,
don't
"Oh,
say that stuff, right?
no." I'm like,
Yeah.
put them on,
Yep.
put those braces
And
on."
and one of the, I mean, like a challenge that that you might face, like I wonder about is, what if you get sick? What if you have to go on medication that causes 20-pound weight gain? What
Right?
if
What if I
and I
get
think
sick?
that's where that self-love part comes in, right? Yeah. And so this is totally not a 19-year-old question, but like, what did you do to invest in loving yourself?
Well, after therapy and after a lot of heartbreak, I had to put myself out there to get rejected and then learn that I could be okay.
Mm,
So the pain of rejection was like, oh, that wasn't so bad. I didn't die. I'm fine. And actually, the beautiful thing was the more that I put into my business and my clients and the love of helping others,
hmm.
the more I realized they didn't care if I had abs. They didn't care if I was 10 pounds lighter. They didn't even notice. They
Mm-hmm.
cared that I was helping them and how they felt when they were training with me.
Exactly.
I realized that nobody was falling in love with me for my abs. They didn't give a shit. They really didn't. And my family didn't love me any more or less if I was leaner. I think the investment into my business, I went all in. I hired a business coach, invested in other places, and the joy of helping others took over the obsession of my own body. And
Mm-hmm.
I just never felt so amazing that in service of others was what I was lacking. I was so narcissistic on myself,
Mm-hmm.
and at the end of the day, wasn't working for me anymore. So I had to invest in a therapist. I couldn't do it by myself, and I had to be
Yeah.
honest and open and tell people about my eating disorder.
Yeah.
So I went on podcasts. I wrote blogs, very detailed blogs that I wrote for Feminist Figure Girl, my girlfriend Leanne McTavish, who is a professor at the U of A. She was like fascinated with my story as well because she did one figure competition. She's like, I'm done. That's it. I don't care
Because
if
it's
I don't
hard.
get the weight
Yeah.
back. Yeah, and so, but I thrived in that discipline. And I also thrived on the notoriety of like, is that a word? Notoriety of
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, I'm above you. I can diet for 12 weeks and not even cheat once. Because
Yeah.
when you're dieting for a show, you don't throw up. Like, because
Yeah.
I want that protein in my body. I don't. So that was one thing bodybuilding did do for me was teach me about you got to eat and you got to train hard.
Yeah.
And not all that cardio, right? But in between shows is when I would go nuts on the cardio, and then the bulimia would come back
Mm-hmm.
because if I ate one thing off my plan, I had to burn it off or throw it up. But during
Right.
my
Because
yeah
just panic, right?
panic mode, but during my preps, it was like a switch would go on, and I wouldn't mess up. Like I would follow my plan to a T, and nothing would get in my way. And so I was just like, don't you know I'm competing for a bodybuilding show? Like, yeah, go ahead and have your McDonald's, but I have to eat my
Yep.
4 ounces of chicken. And I just felt like so elite. And nobody gave it. Like, what did I win? I won like a medal and like a little trophy, I think, of protein powder.
Yeah.
Who
Like
cares?
it's that perfectionist obsessiveness, right?
Yeah.
And so it sounds like your path has always had a piece of obsessiveness,
Yeah.
just different things that you're obsessed with. So what are you obsessed with now?
I'm working for this great family that they're really business oriented. So I'm kind of getting into like this business world and entrepreneurship. And, obviously social media has helped me a lot with spreading my word about helping others.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of obsessed with like, I love the physical culture, but what I'm trying to find is the balance. So I'm obsessed with helping former clients like myself get out of that all or nothing diet train, helping former figure competitors or bodybuilding competitors figure out how to navigate that post competition and move back into a normal world. A lateral subject I'm obsessed with is punk rock music. I love history of punk
Oh,
rock. I love punk rock music and wine, horticulture, wine, family, like drinking and how they grow their grapes and how weather can come into it and temperature and harvest. And so wine is another thing that I went to Nate to take that sommelier course. And so the thing is with me is like
okay.
once I get a subject I like, I'm trying not to be so obsessed. So I'm trying to have like a couple lateral interests, but
Mm-hmm.
I geek out. I still geek out on exercise physiology, menopause, perimenopause, postnatal, like trying to those next.
Good.
And if you want to do a bikini show, I am not your trainer.
Yeah.
I am all about balance, moderation, and how to help women with their self-esteem, their body image. Because listen, if you come to me with some kind of body image issue, I've had it. And it wasn't until I was on the other side of it that I could be so transparent
Mm-hmm.
and talk about it.
Yeah.
I will go to bat, and that's a hill I'll die on. Like I will not do diet culture ever again.
Do you ever look back? I mean, I did this. Do you ever look back at like, do you ever feel guilty for the people you trained in your 20s while you were in that
Oh, yeah.
space? Yeah.
I've apologized to them. I'm like, I didn't know. That's what I did to get lean. And I just assumed that I had to give you your meal plan and that you were on 6 days a week of cardio and, 4 days a week of training and those crazy circus workouts that were so popular. Like I just didn't know. That's how we were all training each other. And
Yeah.
I really wish I could apologize to everybody that I train with that no longer works with me. but that culture was selling. Like
Yep.
that's where I made money, was on my
Yep.
body and my showing, crazy pictures of my physique in a bikini was like my billboard. And
And when you
yeah, like
found somebody as obsessed as you were, then it was just like, it was exciting because now you had somebody like that was like, this is going to be fun because now we have somebody who's in this with me, right?
yeah, and I remember
Yeah.
taking or going to a bodybuilding show with a client that wanted to compete, and I was in off season, and I was like, yeah, I'll take you to a show and I'll show you what it's like back there. And I was like, why did I do that for? Like, why would I want to put her into this culture and expose her to this dark, weird
Hmm.
world? But there is a beautiful thing about bodybuilding when you're not upset, when you're not getting an eating disorder out of it. But I would argue that not one bodybuilder or physique competitor has come out of it without having some sort of an eating disorder or a severe body image dysmorphia.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a way that but then, I mean, look at the obsessed with MMA fighting and this obsessed with like some of the stuff that other sports have you do to cut weight, like horseback, like those horseback ride, like what are they,
Yep.
where they're so tiny, or ballet,
Yeah.
or ballet is so dark.
Well, the reality of any elite sport is that there's a darkness to it. And when you leave that elite sport, then you have, so much work to do because
Mm-hmm.
you have this structure and this rigidity and this super control over your environment and your body, and it's all for a purpose, and you're rewarded for that purpose. And so with all of those things that you just mentioned, then yeah, the
Yeah.
day after that sport ends or the day after the competition, there is definitely a mental process. There's depression and anxiety and all of that stuff that comes with it,
Like, who am I?
especially.
Who am I without my sport? Like, who?
Absolutely. Yeah. And especially when food has been a piece of it, because we know that deprivation creates problems for your brain.
Yeah.
So like it's just it's a beast, like you said. Yep.
And right now, I'm actually taking a 12-week nutrition course, to be a certified nutritionist consultant, to help women and men, people who are formerly obsessed with dieting, to help them heal their relationship with food. And this is new. The diet culture has been here for so long that now we
Hmm.
have to create a new program to help the diet people on diets get off the diets.
Yeah.
It's like a new career that
Yeah.
we had to make due to the problems that dieting.
But what a great career. Tracy says menopause is a beast, living it. Great conversation, you two. When you said that you were investing in perimenopause and menopause, I mean, this is the conversation amongst my friends now, right? We're 45. Um, there's so little information out there
Yeah,
other than taking drugs, which, maybe
like,
not we
yeah.
like for me, when I was 30, I had a pulmonary embolism.
Wow.
So like drugs are just not, I can't do hormone therapy.
Okay.
Uh, and in dealing with what your body is capable of, like there's all sorts of little weird things that happen. I've had a lifetime of fitness. I've never gone more than a week without being active, and it's all sorts of different types of fitness. And this summer I committed to just yoga and walking.
Perfect.
But yeah, and it was wonderful. And still, I mean, I'm strong and
Yeah.
all of that stuff. But what started happening with me was that I would bloat, like my fingers would turn into sausages after I lifted weights. And I'm like, what the hell is happening? And the answer is 45. That's what's happening,
Well, yeah,
right?
progesterone and your estrogen starts to decrease, and
Yeah.
happening where uh, you do have to change the way you train and eat, and sleep is huge. And with
Hmm.
perimenopause, especially, it's like sometimes these symptoms come on gradually, and sometimes it's like overnight. And my
Yeah.
one of my really good friends, Amanda Thebe, is writing or has written a book about menopause, and it's called uh, "Menopausing So Hard" is her Facebook group, but it's Menopocalypse.
Oh.
That book is coming out at the end of October, and I went and stayed with Amanda. She lives in Houston now, but she's originally from England, but they lived in Toronto for a while, and her husband went to school in Boston, so she's now in Houston. But I mean, she hit menopause at 42, and she's
Mm.
like, "What in the hell is going on?" Like she was effortlessly lean until she hit 42, and then so now she's written a book to help women survive this and know that they're not alone, and everything is temporary. You will get through it,
Hmm.
and you will be okay.
Yeah.
But these weird little things like you're sweating and like your you smell weird, and you're starting
Mm-hmm.
to gain fat in places you didn't used to before, and it's not as easy to stay lean, and it's okay. Like we're meant to change, and
Mm-hmm.
it's temporary.
Yeah.
And if you just have a little bit of armor of knowing what you're up against, it can be quite exciting to know that
Yeah.
these are okay. It's okay. And strength training, though, I mean, once you're done committing to yoga and walking, by the way, is beautiful. It's exactly what you needed all summer.
Yes, absolutely it is.
Yeah.
Absolutely it is. And I didn't lose any strength and I didn't lose any fitness.
Right.
I went for a 6K run the other day. Like I haven't, but because the path was beautiful. It wasn't because I went for a run. It was because I went for a walk and I got to a trail that was beautiful and I was like, "Oh, I got to run this baby."
Yeah, yeah. And there's no judgment there. It's just
Right.
body.
It wasn't one of those runs that I used to do where I had to beat my time, has to be a PR every time.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I can't believe I took 30 minutes to do a 5K, like that
Oh.
thing I used to do to myself. It was just the leaves are beautiful, the path is awesome, the air is crisp, the sun is setting,
Mm,
like this just feels good. And to get to that place where you honor your body for just feeling good,
uh-huh.
it I don't it's unfortunate that it's such a long path and such a long process.
It is.
It'd be so awesome if, we could get to that place at 19,
I know.
you know?
But with all the things that you do when you're 19 and you don't know, and it's
Oh,
so and
amen.
you have to have the full experience to know. And I will never regret my journey because I've had the full experience, and I love being on the other side of it and having this knowledge. And
Hmm.
also, like the more I don't know, the harder I work, I guess the luckier I get, and the more I surround myself with really cool people. I'm just like so blessed with some of the clients I have that are way smarter than me with the other subjects in the world,
Hmm.
and if they trust me with their fitness, it means so much to me. Like I
Yeah.
feel so honored that, but I mean, 22 years in this career, and I'm not gonna stop. And I really thought like, oh my gosh, I'm 40 now. No one's gonna want to work out with me. You know what I mean? But then my clients have aged with me,
Hmm.
right? And there's gonna be
Right.
I'm 50. There's gonna be a 50-year-old woman that wants to work out with me, and when I'm 60,
Yep.
there's gonna be a 60-year-old. So your clients age
Yeah.
with you.
I remember being 35 and saying out loud, I need to find another career because in 10 years, my body's not going to be able to do this. And just like you just have, first of all,
It's not true.
it's absolutely not true. And the arrogance in what we believe we know in our 30s.
I know.
Like, oh my gosh, people in their 30s, like you just don't know it. You think you do, but you really don't.
No kidding.
And
Just
the
on.
beauty, like for me, like when I got toward my 40s, and in my 40s I started listening to the people who were older than me, like,
Yeah.
and actually believing them rather than thinking I knew more than them
Yeah. I'm
because they couldn't possibly know.
Yeah, I'm a sponge. I'm here to learn, and the more I learn, the more I realize I don't know.
Yeah.
There are so many interesting people to learn from if you just listen.
Mm-hmm.
And I've
Absolutely.
asked my parents. I've been a talker my whole life, and for me to listen and like, absorb and hear, like, I think what a blessing, like,
Yeah.
and be able to do that. So yeah,
That's awesome. Okay, so going back
yeah,
back to 19. You already mentioned who influenced you and what your biggest dream was, so we're not going to talk about those.
mhm,
But I think one of the awesome things about talking about our past is that usually we've dealt with our shit,
yeah.
hopefully. Um, and so this gives us an opportunity to identify like when we were the bad guy, like when we were the ones creating harm
Yeah.
or we were the ones that did something wrong. And so when you were 19, when were you the bad guy? How were you the bad guy?
Oh, lying. I feel
Hmm.
like I lied a lot to people to protect my eating disorder. And I don't like the fact that I feel like I betrayed my friends because I was lying. What else? How can I put it? Like, was that a bad thing, or was that just protection, or is it innocent, or is it still like the person? And I don't want that to define the person I was, because I mean, I had good ethics and morals being raised with by my parents. And so I
Mm-hmm.
don't think that was something that was malicious.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Dark, bad guy. Like, I don't
Well,
know.
sometimes we're the bad guy without meaning to be malicious. Like it was just we were the ones that made the situation what it was,
Yeah,
you know?
I talk back to my parents. I always would talk over my mother, and I would think I know more than her. And we couldn't even have a conversation. We'd have to go to different ends of the house.
Mm,
And our communication style was bad because she just shut the door and she couldn't talk to me because I just had to be louder and I had to have the last word.
mm.
So there's one place that I was a little shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure my sister's got 3 daughters, bless her heart, and she's gonna have some times ahead of her where her teenage daughter is gonna be pushing back like I am. But my sister is very reserved and quiet, and have me as an older sister, I think was tough.
Mm.
Because I remember her saying to me that even her teachers would call her Deanna, and she'd be like, "My name is Crystal," you know.
Oh.
My presence maybe is aggressive or loud. I don't know.
Yeah.
I know. I almost wish I could pick a different age because there was times where I was worse, like things that I mean that I did that I feel bad about. But 19, I don't know. That's a
Yeah.
tough one to finish off on. But yeah, I don't know. I'd have to think about that.
Yeah. So 19 in general was like it was a cool age for you. It was a good age
Yeah,
that led into the dark ages,
it was the year of the
basically.
transition of getting out of social work and knowing that I'm going to go into personal training
Mm-hmm.
and moving out of my parents' home and into my brother's basement. I had to pay rent there, and
Yeah.
you know, and it's just one of those things where it's a transition year, and
Yeah.
also breaking up with a boyfriend, and moving into Grand Prairie the next year. So it was kind of an interesting year for sure.
Yeah.
And then I remember thinking, oh no, I'm 20. Ooh, it's so old.
Oh.
I'm not a teenager anymore.
Yeah, my favorite thing right now is like I'm only halfway.
Yeah,
You
right?
know, like
40 is fabulous. Like, I didn't
so
know. Go ahead.
so one of if you don't follow Deanna on Twitter, if you are on Twitter and her Instagram as well, but definitely go follow her because her perspective and the things she shares regarding fitness and nutrition, unusual, definitely, but so grounded in health and like just so I mean I feel like I like your stuff all the time. I'm like,
I,
yeah, yeah,
I like
yeah.
your stuff too, but I feel like these tweets come out of conversations with my clients.
Mm-hmm.
So something will catch my that I repeated to my client, and I'm like, that's a tweet, and I will just write that in my notes.
Yeah.
It's all from salt of the earth. It's all like very authentic things that I've said. And I'm like, okay, people also need to hear this.
Yeah.
And so I feel like my tweets are genuine and they really do come from the heart. And I don't want to lead anybody down a path of like, it could be better.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that, and I always share my tweets in my stories and I put them up on Instagram because I feel like that's how you do social media now.
We can talk about that another time.
Yeah, I would love to look into your social media closely.
Yeah, it's so fantastic. The other thing I freaking love is whenever you post videos of you doing pull-ups.
Oh,
I'm
thank
just
you.
like every single time I'm like, you're so freaking badass. Like, yeah, you go. Like,
That's one thing that I've given my gift to myself. I started doing pull-ups to try to get into the police service because at that
mm,
time women only had to do one, but men had to do 10. So that's
no.
like, well, I'm gonna do 10, and then
Uh-huh.
I never went back. I always kept my pull-up game strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's a really difficult thing to learn as women,
Mm-hmm.
how to do it because we don't generally use those really big muscles in the same way guys do.
Oh,
But like you just crank them out and it's just,
that's
yeah,
well, of
awesome.
course. Why wouldn't I? So what's
Yeah.
happening with the pull-ups is I have a couple women that since shutdown, their husbands have put a pull-up bar in their basement. And I've
Mm.
had 2 women get their first pull up by being consistent,
Yeah.
and it's non-negotiable. They see that pull up bar, and then they have my little program. Like, well, what's stopping me, right? So I think that having it right there in their hand, they never knew that.
Yeah.
So it's just consistency.
Yep. Try every day, engage those muscles, figure out what it's supposed to look like and feel like, and then
The
did just
body will
little
adapt.
bits, right?
The
Yeah.
body's like made to do hard things, and it will adapt to what you demand of it. So
Yeah. So
cool.
cool. All right. So we're an hour in, but I do definitely want to address your dating situation.
Yeah, well, I've done the Facebook dating app.
Oh, really?
I went on one date during the whole COVID. I think we're still in COVID, aren't we? So on my
Mm-hmm.
dating app, what I wrote down on my profile is I was like, what are we even doing regarding dating right now? And do we just stand there and look at each other? And
Yeah.
with this crazy glory hole and wear your mask, like we can't even have first date.
Right.
You can't even make out with the guy, but you can have sex. So it's like,
That's right.
what are we doing here?
That's
so
right.
so I like some of the guys that talk to me on Twitter, but most of them are married.
Mm.
And the ones that DM me that doesn't go any farther, once I see that they have a relationship, I just block. I'm like, I don't want to engage you here, and you're not for me.
Yep.
Like that's it. And so yeah, I think the thing is like I got to be open to saying yes to more things, but the hard part is I want to also respect my clients and have me come to their homes, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to be going out on dates with people I don't know and then training my clients in their homes. And
Right.
you got to stay distanced, and you can't be. I don't know. Like it's interesting.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we'll see.
And you've never been married and you don't have kids.
No,
And do you want to be married? Like, is that a
I want to be. I want. Can I have a weekend boyfriend?
yes, you can
Like
have whatever you want.
I want monogamy during the week, however, but the weekend commitment because I'm in school again. I have a full clientele. I have an online coaching group. I have a full life that I'm not lonely, and I do have
Hmm.
some plumbers coming in tomorrow to. But so I think I don't know if I want to be married, but I would like a monogamous relationship. I'm not
Hmm.
open to date. I am open to dating a man with children, but it has to be a man that's already raised his children and they're not 6 and 5 or something like that that need
Hmm.
because
Which is
not necessarily
reasonable.
yeah. And
Yeah.
also I like living. I guess when you live alone for this long, like I like my life. I like I like my morning routine and I know when you get married, you got to open up your morning routine to having this guy beside you. And can I sleep with somebody and wake up with them every morning again? And
Yeah.
I have rosacea, and I'm like, if I don't have my makeup on, well, they think that my cheeks are too, like these insecurities
Yeah.
about and these weird single behaviors that you're almost terrified to give up, but then you open it up and maybe you get something even better in return
Hmm.
that I have to see. Like I admire my sister's marriage and my brother's marriage. Like they're just and my parents obviously, but like I'm a handful.
Yeah.
Like Chelsea Handler, her parents would say, "Oh, I don't know, Chelsea, you're a real handful." You may,
Well, and it doesn't have to be like the beauty of it being your relationship is you get to form it, right?
yeah,
So I know like in my relationship because I'm very much that way too. I'm very independent like
fierce,
like you.
yeah,
But the nice thing, I'll never get married again, like absolutely not even on the table. But the nice thing is about having a partner is just having somebody who you don't have to explain things to when you've had a bad day. Like
they
they
get it.
get it. Like that stuff's
Your
nice,
body
right?
language. You're
Um,
starting to freeze a little bit,
it-
just so you know.
yeah.
You're freezing
Okay.
a
So
little bit.
remember the
I
rule.
I know. I got the rule. I got it. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know that Joe was married before you too, correct?
Yeah.
So you're both in the
Yeah.
same place at the same time. So this one woman told me, well, what if your guy is just still getting a divorce and he's not ready for you yet? He's out there. Maybe it's the timing issue. So I'm sitting
Mm-hmm.
with that. And I also can't have children. I found that out when I was 38. I've only got
Mm.
one side of my your uterus has two fallopian, what are they called? Horns.
Fallopian tubes, ovaries.
Horns.
Yeah.
I've only got one, so I have a unicornate uterus.
Okay.
And I didn't find that out till I was
Hmm.
38. So even if I would have wanted to have children, they said I would have most likely miscarried and miscarried and I would never carry a baby full term. So it's kind of a blessing that I never ever did. Like never tried. I never had my heart broken with miscarriages, because it just wouldn't have happened. So it's kind of a blessing. I think I had to grieve that, but I think I'm okay. Like now I'm 42, and I know
Yeah.
my grandma had my mother at 45, and one of my good friends,
Oh,
Leanne, had a son at 45. So you can have children older, and I mean that's a woman that was in the 1950s having a baby at 45,
mm-hmm.
right? So it wouldn't have like I could totally. I'm fit and strong, but I just can't have children. So it's
Yeah.
off the table. So it is what it is, and I'll have a very full life with my nieces and my nephew, and I
Mm-hmm.
can be a cool aunt. But
Yep.
I'm not opposed to dating. But I don't think marriage. I don't need to be married to be
Yeah.
fulfilled like you. Like I'm very confident, and I pay my bills. Like I've bought my own condo. I run my own business. I've never relied on anybody ever. So
Yeah. The trick is to find somebody strong enough to stand beside you when
oh,
you're strong like that. And so I would say, like, don't settle, keep going.
thank you.
Uh,
Oh, you're
but
so cute.
yeah, I'll keep
You're
my
so
eye out for you.
you're
And
so
if you are a guy that's watching this, which guys never watch Joe Out Loud, so
oh
probably not.
no. You should,
But if you're married, don't DM women. Uh,
if you're married, get out of the DMs and don't give
I
us
feel like that shouldn't have to be said, and
no.
yet I feel like everybody watching this has probably received a direct message from a married man, so it's
Insulting. It's
not
like
rocket science.
when I know their wives and I know they have children, it's like, uh, I do have a big mouth, so watch it. Because I'm not afraid to blow your cover. Because
You got to start doing it.
I have nothing to lose. I just don't want to break anyone else's heart. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I don't know. There's better things to do with your time, guys.
Yeah. And your time.
Yeah,
Like, what a waste of your time.
yeah, exactly.
All
So
right. Well, maybe my dream last night was meant for you, although I really don't want Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively to break up. But should
no,
they?
should they? You know who
Although
it's
he's got
really
small kids, that's a deal breaker for
You
you.
know who it's really I'm really gaga over right now is that guy that plays Superman, Henry Cavill.
Oh,
I'm so gaga over him, so I'll let him. I'll like to dream about him tonight. Knock on wood. I'll watch an episode. Of Superman.
just putting that out to there to the universe.
Yeah,
If you're gonna put something out, let's put that
yes.
out. All right. Well, I feel like I could talk with you for like another 2 hours.
No,
But we do have to wrap up.
we do
We're
have
at
a follow up.
70 minutes. We went, yeah, which is great.
Well, I can see
Thank
why Joe is with you. He's always Joey
I
Whitbread.
know.
12. He was our announcer at lunchtime, and he played
Yeah.
hockey with my brother and Mr. and Mrs. Whitbread. Oh, they're such great people, and I can see why he's in love with you. You're a sweetheart.
Well,
Aw.
I'm gonna actually record that part.
Yeah.
I'll just clip that out and be like, see, Deanna can see why you're in love with
Oh,
me.
hands down. I can see it.
That's really kind of you. I definitely appreciate you joining me. Thank you for saying yes when I asked you. Absolutely.
Sure.
I hope to do this again. Just so if you're still watching with us, the October schedule is crazy. We have Paul O'Neill, who used to be on the radio here in Red Deer and is on the radio in Edmonton now, I believe,
Okay.
unless he got caught in the COVID stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we have on Thanksgiving Day Sarah Wild and Small from the Urban Aboriginal Voices.
Ooh.
I think that's going to be awesome just to really have a different perspective on Thanksgiving Day. I have Melanie Sorda-Saul, and I promise you I just said her last name wrong. She's going to talk about surviving breast cancer
Ah.
on the 21st. And then Guy Lapointe, who is the Economic Development Officer in Lacombe. He's not the hockey player, but he's awesome. He's one of my favorite people, and he's going to be here on the last Monday in October.
October
So
is fire.
October is fire. So I'm really looking forward to it. And so thank you again, Deanna. We're going to wrap, call it a night.
All right.
And I appreciate you being here.
See you on Twitter, Joe.
All right, peace.
Bye. Peace out.